long did Skippy Dies take all the Paul Murray to write? And the answer is 7 years.
It's the 1st of November, time for our monthly book club to reconvene, which of course I know gives Anne Diamond a huge thrill. This month, the Wright Stuff Reads is looking at this, Skippy Dies, by Irish writer Paul Murray. If you've read it, do let us know your thoughts by text, email and tweet. And joining Anne, Michael and myself to share our thoughts is this lady, Tina Hawke, who lives in Southampton and runs an events management company. Good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So what was the last book you read?
It was How to Kill Your Husband and Other Useful Household Hints.
Kathy Laird.
Yeah, very good. I laughed all the way through.
Comedy is your thing, because I don't want us to fall out, but the researchers have told me you're a big fan of Jeffrey Archer.
I just think
Lord of Lies.
I just think his writing's so fantastic that you can actually get into the book.
You like his
the
writing,
character.
but for the benefit of me, not necessarily as a human being.
No comment.
Okay. Now, I like her. Let me tell you a bit about Skippy Dies. First, not wishing to spoil the suspense, it doesn't end well for Skippy. It doesn't begin well either, because Skippy dies right at the beginning of the book. Second, Skippy is not a bush kangaroo, Anne, just in case you haven't finished the book. Skippy is the nickname, I should say, of Daniel Juster, a pupil at an expensive Catholic boarding school in Dublin. He dies, apparently, during a donut-eating race with his pal Ruprecht, a fat genius who's obsessed with far-out physics, way beyond the reach and understanding of mere mortals like the four of us, I should imagine. And the book tells how Skippy's death came to pass by looking at the various events that led up to his death, including his relationship with the beautiful but troubled Laurie. It's in flashback, if you like. There's drug dealing, illicit sex, bullying, anorexia, and child abuse to contend with, none of which sounds very funny. So we'll start with the obvious question, Tina. Did it give you a giggle?
It did in some areas. A lot of it was very deep, but
Yes.
there were some funny parts that did make me laugh out loud, especially Carl and Barry and the shenanigans they get up to.
These are your inept drug dealers.
They are, and not that I condone that sort of thing, but the way they carry on the whole sort of daily carry on with the children, they look at the children and see who's on ADHD tablets, and they sort of bully them, especially Morgan Bellamy. That was a really funny story when they actually bullied him to get his tablets from.
So they get the pills, the ADHD pills off the kids, and then
sell to the girls for diet pills. Yeah, so
now I think it's interesting how the pupils and teachers are portrayed in this book, because their lives mirror those lives of the pupils. So Skippy and the history teacher, Howard the Coward, are both inadequate and juvenile as each other. The ladies, Miss McIntyre, a supply teacher, and Janine, one of the girls, Laurie's friend, both give sex away and are very controlling, Anne. Did you see these other parallels?
Yeah, I think that's quite fascinating. I mean, anyone who's ever worked in a school, and I was a teacher for a year, if you go into the staff room, there's no different from in the classroom at all. There's any idea that teachers have got their lives together is crazy. And that's what this shows, actually. The teachers they're mirroring, they're living the same sort of chaotic lives, just on a different level, on a different plane. Yeah. Which is really interesting, and this guy can write, and he does do it extremely well, and it's often funny because of that. But I think that's very realistic, actually.
Well, if it was any more realistic, if I was to wave it in front of my nose, I would be able to get teenage boy B.O. from the pages.
Absolutely.
Michael is the closest thing to a teenage boy on the panel by some years. How well did you think Murray nailed sort of pubescent, 14-year-old boys?
I think he did so well. He's got such a good turn of phrase, and I never once found myself thinking whilst reading, this is an adult who's trying to sound how kids sound. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think, this guy, he hasn't done his research, or he's trying to act like he's down or anything. I really did feel it was conversations going on between teenage boys. I really did. Subtleties there.
I thought that it was extraordinary, because I went to a Catholic school, not a boarding school, and I couldn't work out whether it's just that the events are unique to Catholic schools, or whether it's social or class thing or whatever, but it was like reading, in many ways, my school days, minus the murder or the deaths. It was exactly as I remembered school.
Yeah. No, it definitely brought back a lot of memories for me. I think the boys in this story, in the boys' Catholic school, were a little bit more sex craved than me and my friends were, and I think that's because we went to a mixed school, only a little bit more sex craved.
But not as sex crazy as, say, Jay and the In-Betweeners. I mean, I thought that was quite, because I've been watching a lot of that on DVDs.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the women, if I can, too, because I've said that we've compared that the older women can be just as controlling and sex-obsessed as the younger girls.
Yes.
Do you think overall that women are given quite a rough ride in this book?
I think so, and I think Orly especially and Janine portray a very manipulative sort of way they are with the boys, and they use it to their advantage, obviously. And I think it doesn't come across. It makes it sound like all women are a bit that way, and also with the other characters.
Are they?
No.
Promise.
No, promise. Sometimes depends what we want, shoes or bags or something maybe. But no, I really feel that the girls didn't get a really good deal, and I think all of them were very, very nice.
I think he doesn't write women as
No,
well
he
as he writes
doesn't. No,
blokes.
no, not at all.
Laurie was quite interesting. She's Skippy's love interest, and Skippy perceives all this sort of wonderful, sort of virgin view of perfection, and yet her dark side is she's a pretty much hideous, manipulative slag for one of
Well, I don't think they're very well-rounded, to be honest. The boys, even though they're up to no good, a lot of the boys, they're actually quite nicely well-rounded boys.
Yeah, but the boys were flawed as well. I don't think the women got necessarily any more of a raw deal than the males in the story, because when you look at it, the women were very powerful in the story. You know, they were held in quite a high esteem, and then when you look,
But they're held in high esteem, but for no good reason.
yeah, because we found out. About their flaws, because you see them in their personal lives, the environment in which they came from, and then we say, oh, they shouldn't be held in high esteem. But I think through the boys' eyes, they were seen as powerful figures. I don't think they got more of a raw deal than the guys. Not really.
I think to the public reading it, to be honest, I think that it didn't make the girls look good in general.
But wasn't he writing through the perspectives of the characters?
Yes.
Wasn't it the characters' opinions of the females?
Yeah.
Not
But there's
necessarily his.
only about five. Well, there's a couple of adult characters, aren't there? The sort of the Miss Prim teachers, this supply teacher who is rampantly sexual and very controlling, and then you have the teenage girls, all of whom are rampantly sexual and very
And
controlling.
they've all got problems, diet pills, they're anorexic.
That's
If
right.
I could just sorry, the boys, it's true.
Boys have got problems there as well.
Now, there's one area that we haven't touched upon, which I know Anne is dreading me bringing up, and that is, I think the only way I can describe it is heavy, hardcore quantum physics. We have M theory,
M theory,
which is so
string
complicated
theory.
nobody even knows what it stands for.
Yeah.
String theory, that the universe comprises of an infinite number of strings. Now, did anybody get that in the book?
Well,
I think it was there. Don't you think it was there because that's what, especially in a school, that's what when you're a teenage boy, you are thinking at one end of the Big Bang and string theory and all the rest of it, and the other end, you're wondering what hair is growing where on your body. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to grasp all of those things.
Anybody else got a different take on?
well, I think it was just a bit too much, but obviously it's portrayed in a book, and it doesn't come across very well in the book. But it's very interesting.
I would argue. I have no interest, by the way, in quantum physics.
No.
It's quite sort of geeky, and tends to be boys that don't have girlfriends that are interested. Don't quote me. But what I thought was really interesting is it's about universes, an infinite number of universes, an infinite number of moments happening, and that the lives of the characters are just as random and as haphazard as the universes in which we live. Very briefly, would you recommend it to a friend?
Mainly my male friends, and also a lot of my male friends have been to Catholic public
So
schools,
they'd
so
love it.
yes.
I'll warn my friends that if you don't read much, it's 3 books in one, so you've got to get ready for that. Prepare
Yes.
yourself.
And
Yeah, I quite agree with you. If Catholics would get more out of it than
Yes,
non-Catholics.
definitely.
that could explain why I loved it, I have to say. But that is all you're going to get from us this morning. I have to say a huge thank you to Tina
you.
here
Thanks for having
her
me.
incisive, intuitive review. Bless you. And likewise, Anne and Michael, good stuff. Ladies and gents, your appreciation. Returns to the panel tomorrow to talk about his new job in the campus musical The West End's Ever Seen. That's tomorrow, though. As for this morning, thank you very much for your company for now. It's goodbye from them, and it's goodbye from me. See you.